Dear students, welcome to our next session of YouTube classes, online classes. Today we will be discussing about one of the major diseases in the world, right? That is known as malaria. Malaria, basically the word is originated from Italian word. Mala refers to bad in Italic, okay? Not in our languages. Mala refers to bad. Area refers to area. Area refers to air. So those people believe that this disease spreads through bad air, contaminated air. So they named this disease as malaria. Later, it was found out that this disease does not spread through bad air. It spreads through a parasite, that is a protozoan, and also transmitted through a vector or an insect. Hence, it is known as vector-borne disease. It is also known as zoonotic disease. What disease? Zoonotic disease. Right? I repeat, malaria means it an Italian word. Origin is from Italy. Italian word, bad air. But this disease spreads through the bite of female Anopheles mosquito. Which mosquito? Female Anopheles mosquito. Basically, only female mosquitoes bites. Only female mosquitoes bites. Whereas the male mosquitoes do not bite at all. Right? They feed on nectar of the flowers, and they have a very short span of lifetime. Whereas the females have comparatively little longer lifetime, right? And they bite. The only female mosquitoes bite. So remember from here onwards that whichever the mosquito that is biting you is a female. Which one? Female mosquito. Remember, kill them. Okay? Right? So female mosquitoes only bite, whereas male mosquitoes do not bite at all. They feed on the nectar of the flowers. So here, this disease is spread through the bite of female Anopheles mosquito. Female Anopheles mosquito. So malaria is caused by a protozoan. Caused by a protozoan. In that, it belongs to phylum Protozoa, class Sporozoa. So that is known as Plasmodium. Right? Plasmodium. It is a parasite. It's a protozoan. It belongs to phylum Protozoa. Hence we call it as protozoan disease or zoonotic disease because it spreads through female Anopheles mosquito. Right? Plasmodium is a genus. It's a protozoan. It's a parasite. It belongs to phylum Protozoa, class Sporozoa. Protozoa has many different classes. Like for example, amoeba belongs to phylum Protozoa, but class Rhizopoda. Similarly, Plasmodium also belongs to phylum Protozoa, but class Sporozoa because it produces sporozoites. About all these things we talk when we talk about the life cycle of Plasmodium. Right? Hence, it produces sporozoites. It belongs to class Sporozoa. So it's a sporozoite. Plasmodium genus. Right? Malaria is caused by a parasite known as Plasmodium. It has four species. That is one is known as. I'll write here so that we can write in detail about that. Right? Plasmodium vivax. Clear? Plasmodium vivax. Then next one, Plasmodium falciparum. Clear? Then Plasmodium malariae. Then 4, Plasmodium ovule. Clear? Now Plasmodium clear. Vivax is the species of this genus or this parasite that is found in Asian countries. All the Asian countries, including largest country in Asia, that is our country, India. In India also we come across this species. Which one? Plasmodium vivax. Clear? Plasmodium vivax is for all the Asian countries. This parasite specificity based on the tropical regions, based on the temperature, host parasite specificity, all those are the factors responsible that this species is confined to Asian countries. Then falciparum, it is mostly found in African countries. Right? Now why I wrote these two species first? Because malaria is largely present in Asian countries and African countries. Which are the two major group of countries? Asian countries, African countries. So this disease, right, is mostly present in these major continents and major countries. Moreover, it causes around 3 million people in the world. Every year, 3 million people are infected with this disease, suffering from this disease from the age range of around 4 to 25 years of age, from 4 years onwards to 25 years of age. These are the age group in which most of the people are infected by malarial fever or malaria. And moreover, in these two major continents, most of the countries they suffer from malaria. Whereas in case of these malaria, Plasmodium malariae, it is found present in rest of the world. What do you mean by rest of the world? Now we'll talk about that. Plasmodium vivae, it is found present in South America and West African countries. So this species is confined to South American countries and West African countries. Rest of the world means apart from Asian countries, African countries, American and West Africa. Apart from this, whichever all the countries that are there in the world, so are considered in the group of rest of the world. Plasmodium malariae causes malarial disease in these countries, whereas Plasmodium vivae causes in case of South America and in West African countries. I hope it's clear about the genus and the species. Plasmodium is a genus, vivax species, falciparum, malariae and vivae. I hope it's clear. And this disease is transmitted by, we'll talk about this again, incubation period. So transmitted by, this disease is transmitted by, as I told you, right here, insect, that is female, Anopheles mosquito, Anopheles mosquito acts as a vector, right? What do you mean vector? You know, through which the parasite or the pathogen spreads. Such a agent, such a vehicle, such a medium is what is known as vector. In our previous classes, in other diseases we have discussed whatever in the foodborne diseases, waterborne diseases. Similarly here, this disease is transmitted through a insect-borne disease. Mosquito, female Anopheles mosquito, right? Vector, who is a vector here? Don't get confused. Vector is also female Anopheles mosquito. It's a secondary host also. When we talk about the life cycle of Plasmodium, we'll talk about the primary host, secondary host, or definitive host and intermediate host. All those terminology will come over there, right? So, which the bite of female Anopheles mosquito, bite of, as I told you in the beginning itself, only female mosquitoes bites, right? Why they bite? For the fertilization of the eggs and all those things. Many reasons are there. Other part of the topic. For female Anopheles mosquito. Which mosquito? Female Anopheles mosquito bites. In this mosquito, if this parasite is present, then only the disease is transmitted. And that too in that sporozoite state. We will talk about that in the life cycle. If a normal female Anopheles mosquito is biting, in that mosquito, this parasite or this Plasmodium is not there, then there is no chances of transmission of the disease. If this female Anopheles mosquito has a Plasmodium in a particular specific life cycle or the phase of the life cycle, in that stage, in that phase only, if such a mosquito bites a healthy person, so from infected person to healthy person through female Anopheles mosquito, the bite of the female Anopheles mosquito, but this mosquito, condition is that this mosquito should have that parasite, should have the Plasmodium, or otherwise there is no chances of spreading of the disease. I hope it's clear. Fine. Now, when you talk about the incubation period, okay, we'll talk about what type of disease they causes. Fine. The Plasmodium vivax causes tertian malaria, benign malaria. What do you mean by tertian? Third day, because in between there is a gap in the symptoms. For example, a person had fever today, high fever with chills. These are the two specific symptoms of malaria. We'll talk about the symptoms in detail when we go to that topic. After 2 days again there is a gap. Such a fever is known as intermittent fever, or that gap period is known as relapse period. Even if the doctor is verifying you the symptoms, the doctor will ask, "En jara bittu barta idea?" Right? Bittu ilgonta idea? Right? Bittu barta idea. What do you mean by bittu barta idea? It's coming after gaps of 2 days or 3 days. So this vivax causes a disease, malaria, known as tertian. Why? After 48 hours again, the symptoms reappear. On the third day, again first day, 2 days gap, again on the fourth day. That's why it is known as tertian, tertian, fourth. 4. Benign, harmless. When benign, we'll talk about this benign and malignant when we go to the next topics in the same chapter, that is cancer, benign tumor, malignant tumor. So here benign refers to harmless. Benign refers to it is a curable malaria. It's a curable malaria. This malaria can be curable. It is treatable. Fine. The patient can survive. So tertian, after 2 days of gap. First day there were symptoms. Second day, third day, no symptoms. Fourth day again, there are symptoms. Hence, such a malaria is known as tertian benign malaria. Benign malaria. Clear? I hope it's clear. Then, this causes cerebral malaria. Cerebral malaria. Why it is known as cerebral malaria? When a falciparum, which occurs in African countries, Plasmodium falciparum, causes a malaria known as cerebral malaria. Cerebral refers to brain, regarding nervous system. So this malaria is a lethal malaria. When this malaria occurs in a person, if not treated in time or in the early stages, this malaria kills the patient. Hence it is known as fatal malaria. Fatal, F-A-T-A-L. Fatal refers to which kills, which is more harmful, which is more dangerous. Lethal malaria, fatal malaria, or we can call it as a cerebral malaria. Fine. It is also quaternary. Fine. Quaternary, like how it is tertian, quaternary. After every 72 hours again, you get the disease, you get the symptoms. So quaternary malaria, cerebral malaria. You remember the species that is found present in African countries causes fatal malaria, cerebral malaria that kills the patient. Clear? Next, in Plasmodium malariae, regularly after 1 day or continuously you come across symptoms. Fine. It's also fine. The malaria, fine, which occurs recurring malaria. What is known as recurring malaria? Again and again, repeatedly you have high fever, you have chills. So such symptoms are seen. Recurring malaria. Whereas in case of Plasmodium ovule also you come across tertian malaria. Fine. So these are the different species that causes different types of malaria. We have to remember two very important ones. One is known as the Plasmodium vivax. In Asian countries it causes tertian benign malaria. Falciparum causes cerebral malaria. Now when we talk about the incubation period, the incubation period ranges from 8 to 24 days. In many books it is written 8 to 17 days, 20 days, 24 days. Right? Clear? Maximum around 8 to 24 days the incubation period. Here also again the incubation period varies from species to species. For example, like in case of Plasmodium vivax, the incubation period ranges from 8 to 17 days. So on an average, we can consider this as 12th day incubation period. Whereas in case of here, from 9th to 20th day, range I am telling you over here. This also from 8 to 14th day. Whereas in case of Plasmodium ovule, this is a very important point, neat point rather. Right? It shows longest period of incubation period. That is from 15th day to 9 months. Clear? Up to 9 months also. Fine. So here this Plasmodium ovule, what you have to remember about this is it shows the longest incubation period. In your NEET exam, since there are 4 species are there, they can ask, right? Identify the species which have a longest period of incubation period in malaria. A, vivax. B, falciparum. C, malaria. D, ovule. Which one? Ovule has 15 days to 9 months of incubation period. Largest incubation period so far whatever we have come across. So remember about that. I have told you the genus, the species, the countries where their causes, and what type of malaria, right? What type of tertian, cerebral, recurring malaria, and also their incubation period. Now, who transmits this disease? Right? Female Anopheles mosquito, the bite of female Anopheles mosquito. That mosquito, since it is transmitted by an animal, insect, an animal, this is also known as zoonotic disease. Zoonotic Try to understand this terminology. Zoo refers to animals. Fine. Zoonotic disease. Zoonotic disease. Clear? Fine. Why? Because it has been transmitted by an insect. By an insect. Fine. Mosquito. Hence it is known as zoonotic disease. Fine. Vector. Female Anopheles mosquito. It spreads through. Transmitted from infected person to healthy person through a bite of female Anopheles mosquito. The mosquito which has this parasite in its salivary glands. So I hope it's clear. We have spoken about causal organism. Fine. Then about the mode of transmission. Let's go on to symptoms. As you know, you might have heard that malaria is a fever. So you can basically understand that here there will be increase in the temperature, increase in the body temperature. Increase in the body temperature. So symptoms includes high fever, relapse period means what? There is a gap. Today a patient has high fever, body temperature was so high, tomorrow you don't have, day after tomorrow you don't have, again recurring, again he on the fourth day, on the third day, on the fourth day, on the fifth day again he shows there is an increase in body temperature. Right? A relapse period, recurring fever, we can call this as also recurring fever. Then chills. This chills and high fever, night sweating, high fever, relapse fever, recurring fever, chills, fine, heavy chills, fine, clear, night sweating. These are the major characteristic symptoms. The malaria is signified by these are the symptoms. Other common symptoms are also there. Malaria is signified by, characterized by high fever, recurring fever, relapse period, chills, fine, chills. Even after using 3-4 rugs, fine, blankets, chills, still you find chills, and because of these chills you will be shivering. That is what you mean by chills. Then night sweating, fine, during night, fine, clear. So person sweats, heavy sweating, chills will also be there, heavy sweating, body sweating will also be there. So these are the major symptoms. Apart from this, the common symptoms which we come across in malaria are, fine, nausea. You all know what is nausea. Vomiting sensation, clear, vomiting sensation, headache, then indigestion, in severe cases, in serious infections, prolonged infections, you see two major symptoms, that is, fine, inflammation of, what do you mean by inflammation? Swelling of, swelling of two organs, that is known as, one is liver, and other is spleen, fine, spleen. Now when do we come across these symptoms? After infection, after biting, after transferring, after incubation period. What is the exact happens in our body? Why do we come across all these symptoms? Because in our blood, we all know that in the red blood corpuscles, we have a chromoprotein, fine, known as, fine, respiratory protein, chromoprotein, known as hemoglobin. You all know that. You all know the function of hemoglobin, responsible for the transportation of oxygen, fine, clear, and bring back the carbon dioxide, oxyhemoglobin, carboxyhemoglobin, fine. So what exactly this parasite does, this plasmodium does, it enters into blood. Basically it enters through blood only. Why? Because the mosquito bites. When we talk about the life cycle, how it is being transmitted through the mosquito, through the saliva, you will clearly understand in the next session. So when this parasite enters into the bloodstream of the human being, it enters into RBC, it feeds on hemoglobin, and undergoes primary developmental stages in the blood cells. So when it feeds on, when it grows in the RBC, it degrade this protein and converts this into, very important point, converts this into Hemozoin. When hemoglobin is converted to hemozoin in patient's body, fine, you come across all these symptoms. Hemoglobin is a chromoprotein. In biomolecules you have studied. In respiration you have studied. Respiratory protein, fine, carries oxygen, brings back carbon dioxide. Oxyhemoglobin, carboxyhemoglobin. When this is converted to hemozoin is a toxic protein, is a toxic compound. When hemozoin occurs, these cells cannot perform their normal function. Why? The structure of these cells, corpuscles, is changed. When the structure changes, it results into a change in the normal behavior, normal functioning. So they cannot carry out their normal function. That leads to severe cases, serious cases that leads to inflammation of the spleen. You all know that spleen is a graveyard of RBCs. Right? So when hemoglobin is converted to hemozoin, it can be asked for one more question also in your final exam. Hemozoin, right? The causal organism. So what are the symptoms? High fever, relapse period, that is recurring fever, gap, there is a gap about that. You have severe chills, right? Night sweating, nausea, headache, indigestion. In serious cases, severe infection, there will be inflammation of two organs. One is the liver and the other is spleen. Now, let me tell you about the symptoms of falciparum, fine? That leads to coma, where a person cannot stand also, The Plasmodium falciparum that causes disease in African countries, we should be thankful that that species cannot survive in Asian countries. So it is abundantly found present in African countries that causes cerebral malaria, fatal malaria. So the symptoms of that, the person cannot stand. He cannot maintain his posture. Fine. He cannot control. He don't have a control on his body. Why? Because it affects the cerebral malaria. So he cannot have body control, and his retina will be going away from each other. So like how we see unicular vision, both the retinas come here, focus towards a common thing, whereas those eyeballs will be moving away from each other, like how you can see in chameleon. So these are the two major symptoms. This leads to coma. Then finally leads to death. Coma is nothing but comma, then full stop. Like that. Coma, then leads to death. That is the case of falciparum. I hope it's clear about symptoms. Now let's go on to preventive measures. Preventive measures. Prophylactic measures, preventive measures. Fine. As far as preventive measures are concerned, these preventive measures are given by WHO, World Health Organization, and in our country, national malarial eradication program. What is known as NMEP, National Malarial Eradication Program. This is the program, right, set up by our government in our country. National Malarial Eradication, to eradicate program. So they have given certain preventive measures. One is WHO, other is National Malarial Eradication Program, NMEP. They have given a list of preventive measures. That is, as you all know, that this disease spreads through female Anopheles mosquito. These mosquitoes, which are these mosquitoes which have become resistant to DDT. So these mosquitoes do not die. The larvae of these mosquitoes do not die because of DDT. So they are DDT resistant mosquitoes. So here, avoid accumulation of stagnant water, where in ditches, old thrown out utensils, fine, tires, clear, fine. Then in coconuts, waste of coconuts, fine, or waste utensils which are thrown behind your house, beside your house, inside your house, fine. Old utensils, ditches, small ditches where water can stand, rainwater or other water will stand. So why? Because this mosquito lay eggs in this water, and these eggs hatch in the water. The larval development stage of this mosquito takes place in water. Hence, avoid the accumulation of stagnant water in and around the houses. Next, Use of mosquito repellents. Use of mosquito repellents. What do you mean by mosquito repellents? Whatever that repels the mosquito, that pushes away the mosquito, repels the mosquito. Like for example, in terms of one is coil, mosquito coil, fine. In terms of coils, in terms of creams, or in terms of mosquito repellent, that fluids, fine. In terms of fluids, clear. All this comes under the category of mosquito repellents. It also includes anti-mosquito net, fine, clear. Anti-mosquito net. Apart from this, one more biocontrol. Very important point. Why we call this as biocontrol? Because here one living organism killing, inhibiting or suppressing the other living organism. Such a concept is what is known as biocontrol. Both organisms are living. One living organism is killing the other living, either microorganisms or animals or insects or plants or whatever it is. One living organism is controlling, inhibiting, suppressing the other organism is known as biocontrol. So here larvicidal fishes, what we use? Larvicidal fishes. The fishes that feeds on the larvae of the female Anopheles mosquito. Such fishes are known as larvicidal fishes. The fishes that feeds on the larvae of mosquito. Such fishes are called larvicidal fishes. Fine. For example, in larvicidal fishes we have stickleback. Then minnows. MINOWS. Minnows. Fine. Trouts, stickleback, minnows, fine. Gambusia, one more fish, fine. Gambusia. These are the few fishes which feeds on, specifically they feeds on the larvae of mosquitoes. Clear? So these fishes can be reared or can be employed into the water bodies or into the tanks or into the sumps where you have accumulation of rainwater or other water, fine. Larvicidal fishes. It's a measure of biocontrol. These fishes feed on the larvae of the mosquitoes. So they kill at the larval stages. What are the fishes? Gambusia, stickleback, minnows, trouts. Fine. These are all the fishes which feeds on the mosquitoes. Fine. So these are all the preventive measures. Clear? Then treatment. This malaria is diagnosed by blood test, because these proteins are present in the hemozoin in the blood. So that test is known as rapid diagnostic test. Right? Simple. It is known as RDT. Right? RDT. Rapid diagnostic test. Same terminology. RDT in biotechnology we call it as recombinant DNA technology. Here it is what is known as rapid diagnostic test. Fine. In the blood, when you go for blood testing, the doctor will tell you to go for blood test. They write MP on that. MP. What do you mean by MP? Malarial parasite. To check for the presence of malarial parasite by a test known as rapid diagnostic test. When it is tested, when it is confirmed that malaria is there, then you have to go for treatment. So treatment includes fine, quinones, compounds I am telling, quinones, chloroquinones, daraprine, atabrin, and mefloquine. This is the latest drug of malaria, mefloquine. Daraprime, fine, very effective. Atabrine also largely used. Daraprime also. Basically, they are the derivative compounds of quinones and chloroquinones. So in the treatment, clear? I hope it's clear. Fine. And remember that one more point. 25th April is marked as Malaria Day. 25th April of every year is marked as Malaria Day. I told you that malaria is a disease, fever caused by Plasmodium vivax, transmitted by female Anopheles mosquito. Incubation period vary from 8 days to 25 days. Fine. The symptoms: chills, high fever, fine, intermittent fever, relapse period, then nausea, fine. All these things, preventive measures, fine. Preventive measures. So far, what I have discussed.